The most dangerous place to live is not the hood. It's not poverty. It's not struggle. It's confusion. Because when you don't know what you really want, life will hand you anything and you'll accept it. Think about it. How many of you are waking up every day grinding, but you don't even know if the ladder you're climbing is leaning against the right wall? That's why you're exhausted. Not because you're working too hard, but because you're working without clarity. Until you stop, look in the mirror and answer the question, what do I really want? You're just running in circles. You will never get clarity on what you really want in life until you stop lying to yourself. That's the first step, and it's the hardest step because most people don't even realize how much they've been lying. You wake up every morning, you look in the mirror and you tell yourself you're fine when deep down you're not fine. You tell yourself you're working towards your dream when you know half the time you're running from it. You convince yourself that the things you're chasing are what you want, but if you strip it all down, they're not even yours. Somebody else planted that in your head, your parents, your friends, society, and you accepted it because it was easier than admitting the truth. I remember grinding in the early days, waking up at 3 a.m. to study, to push, to hustle, but still battling with myself because I hadn't fully decided what I really wanted. See, discipline without clarity is just torture. You can't run a race if you don't even know where the finish line is. You can't build wealth if you haven't defined what wealth means to you. And too many of us are living in that fog, that haze, lying to ourselves that we're okay with average, that we're satisfied with just getting by, when in reality our soul is screaming for more. Philosopher Socrates once said, the unexamined life is not worth living. Let that sit for a second. If you keep running through life without stopping to ask yourself the tough questions, without looking in the mirror and confronting the lies, you're wasting your greatest gift, your life. And I'm telling you, there's nothing more painful than waking up at 50 or 60 and realizing you've been climbing a ladder that was leaning against the wrong wall the whole time. I've met people who told me, I want to be successful, I want to be rich, I want to live free. But when I ask them to define it, they stumble. They can't even articulate it. They've been lying so long, they don't even know what's real anymore. Let me make it plain. If you're saying you want freedom, but you're spending your whole check on clothes, shoes, or things that don't bring you closer to freedom, you're lying. If you say you want health, but every night you're eating what you know is killing you, you're lying. If you say you want a legacy, but you spend more time scrolling than you do building, you're lying. And here's the truth. It's okay to admit it. It's okay to say, I've been lying to myself, because the moment you admit it, that's the moment clarity begins. I remember being homeless, sleeping in abandoned buildings, and I kept telling myself, I'm good. I don't need help. I don't need structure. But that was pride. That was me lying to myself to avoid the pain of facing reality. And the reality was, I was broke. I was lost. I was wasting potential. The moment I admitted it, the moment I said, enough is enough, I've been lying, that's when I found clarity. That's when my grind had purpose. That's when the wealth I was building in my mind turned into real, tangible wealth. But it started with brutal honesty. You can't get clarity if you keep putting on masks. Stop pretending to want what you don't. Stop saying yes to things that don't serve your purpose. One of the greatest minds of all time, Marcus Aurelius, said, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. Apply that to your own life. If it's not the life you really want, stop living it. If it's not the goal you really desire, stop chasing it. Every lie you tell yourself is another chain holding you back. And listen, this isn't just about personal happiness. This is about wealth, legacy, destiny. You can't build an empire on lies. If the foundation is false, the whole building is going to collapse. That's why people hit midlife crises. That's why people burn out, because they were chasing something that was never theirs. They were lying to themselves the whole time. I know somebody right now listening to me, you're in a career you don't even want. You went to school for a degree you didn't even care about. You're in relationships that drain you instead of fill you. And you're telling yourself, it's fine, I can manage. No, you can't. That's the lie. And every day you accept that lie, your clarity gets further and further away. But I need you to hear me. The moment you stop lying, the moment you confront it, the moment you strip away every excuse and every mask, that's when power shows up. That's when your real dream, your real desire, your real hunger comes alive. That's when you stop walking in circles and start walking toward destiny. So I'm asking you today, what lie are you telling yourself? Because you will never see wealth. never see freedom, never see fulfillment until you answer that question. Honestly, the truth may hurt for a moment, but lies will keep you stuck for a lifetime. Stop lying to yourself. When you finally stop lying to yourself, the next step is this. You've got to have a vision, and you've got to protect it like your life depends on it, because it does. But let me be real with you. A vision that comes with excuses is just a daydream. And too many people are living their whole lives inside a daydream, wondering why nothing changes. A true vision doesn't need excuses. It demands execution. I need you to get this. Every single one of us was born with something inside, a calling, a gift, a fire. But you know what smothers that fire? Excuses. Excuses are the water you keep pouring on your own flame. You say, I can't start the business because I don't have the money. I can't go to school because I'm too old. I can't get in shape because my family doesn't eat healthy. Those are not reasons. Those are excuses. And the moment you let them live in your mind, your vision dies. When I was homeless, I had every excuse in the world to give up. Nobody would have blamed me. I didn't have money. I didn't have connections. I didn't even have a roof over my head. But hear me, I had a vision. I could see myself speaking. I could see myself teaching. I could see myself building something that would change lives. And when the vision is real, the excuses don't stand a chance. Because your vision doesn't ask if you're comfortable. It asks if you're committed. The great thinker Aristotle said, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Excuses are habits. They are little lies we repeat until they become our reality. And if you keep rehearsing them, they'll rob you of your excellence. But if you replace those excuses with habits of execution, your vision will become unstoppable. Let me give you something practical. If your vision is to build wealth, stop saying you don't know how. You live in the most information-filled generation in history. Everything you need to learn is in a book, in a library, on a page. The truth is, the excuse isn't about not knowing, it's about not committing. If your vision is to get out of debt, stop saying you don't make enough money and start tracking the money you already have. Because clarity comes when you stop hiding behind excuses and start confronting the truth. I remember when I first started speaking, I had people telling me, you'll never make it big in this lane. You don't speak like the others. You don't fit the mold. That could have been my excuse. I could have let that stop me, but my vision wasn't about fitting the mold. It was about breaking it. And because the vision was strong, I refused to bow down to excuses. That's the level you've got to reach. Understand this, excuses are always easier than execution. That's why people cling to them. But here's the irony, excuses cost you more. You think it's easier to say I can't today, but 20 years from now, when you're sitting in the same spot with the same regrets, you'll realize that excuse was the most expensive thing you ever bought. It cost you your dream. Marcus Aurelius said you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Your excuse is always about something outside of you. Money, time, people, circumstances. But your vision doesn't live outside, it lives inside. And the moment you decide, I'm done letting the outside dictate my inside, that's the moment you find strength. And let me make this plain, your vision has to be so clear that excuses feel embarrassing. If you say you want to leave a legacy for your children, but you spend more time making excuses than making progress, at some point you've got to look yourself in the mirror and admit that embarrassment, that discomfort, that's what pushes you to grow. Let me tell you something from my own grind. In the beginning, when I was putting in those 3 a.m. wake-ups, people laughed. They said, why are you working like that? You're not getting paid for this. Nobody knows your name. They didn't see the vision, but I did. And because I could see it, I didn't care what it cost me. I didn't care if I had to lose sleep, if I had to work 3 times harder than everybody else, if I had to go without. I wasn't looking for excuses. I was looking for ways. That's the difference between people who make it and people who don't. And I need you to decide today, which one are you going to be? Are you going to keep daydreaming, keep rehearsing the same tired excuses, or are you going to lock in on the vision and execute no matter what? Because clarity doesn't come from excuses, it comes from execution. So the question isn't what's holding you back. The question is, What excuse are you still protecting? Let it go. Release it, because your vision deserves more than excuses. It deserves your life. Vision without excuses is the foundation of clarity. At some point, you got to stop playing with the idea of success and actually decide that's it. You got to make up your mind, because let me tell you something. Indecision is a decision. Every time you say, I don't know yet, I'm still thinking about it. Maybe tomorrow, you've already made a choice. You've chosen to stay stuck. And if you stay stuck long enough, that indecision becomes your identity. You're not failing because you're not talented. You're failing because you refuse to decide. I'm telling you right now, your life doesn't change with information. Your life changes with decisions. You already know what you should be doing. You already know what you want, but you keep putting it on pause. You keep waiting for perfect conditions, for everything to line up, for some miracle. Let me help you. There's no perfect time. There's no magic moment. The perfect time is the moment you make a decision. When I was homeless, I didn't get out because I had a plan all figured out. I didn't get out because somebody rescued me. I got out because I made a decision. I said, I will not live like this another day. That decision became the fuel for everything that followed. It didn't matter that I didn't know where I was going to sleep that night. It didn't matter that I didn't have money in my pocket. The decision was made. And once the decision is made, you stop negotiating with your excuses. The great Roman statesman Seneca said, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. And that's exactly what indecision is. It's wasted time, wasted years, wasted opportunities. You've got the same 24 hours as everybody else, but while others are moving forward, you're stuck on the fence, asking the same questions, telling the same story. That fence will kill your future if you don't jump off it. Here's what I know. Clarity is born when you decide, when you commit. The path starts to reveal itself. But as long as you're wavering, everything looks blurry. You say you want wealth, but you can't decide to cut out the distractions. You say you want health, but you can't decide to wake up and move your body. You say you want love, but you can't decide to let go of the relationships that drain you. Your clarity is waiting on your decision. Let me give you something practical. There are people who say they want to start a business, but they spend years researching. They don't launch. They don't try. They just collect information. Do you know what that is? That's indecision dressed up as preparation. Preparation is important, but at some point, you got to stop studying the water and jump in. Otherwise, you'll drown on the shore with a library of knowledge and nothing to show for it. When I decided to become the best at what I do, it wasn't because I knew how it all play out. It was because I refused to stay in the same place another year, another month, another week. That decision forced me to operate at a different level. It forced me to wake up at 3 a.m. It forced me to grind when others were sleeping. The decision made the man, not the other way around. Listen to me, every single day, people die with dreams still inside them. Not because they lacked the vision, not because they lacked the talent, but because they never decided. They kept waiting. They kept hesitating. They kept telling themselves, one day, let me give you a truth that might sting. One day is a lie. One day is a trick your brain plays to keep you comfortable. The only real day you have is today. The philosopher Epictetus said, first say to yourself what you would be and then do what you have to do. That's it. Decide who you're going to be and then align your actions with that decision. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't keep second guessing. Don't keep entertaining plan B, C, and D. Decide and let that decision pull you forward. Some of you have been stuck in the same job for years, not because there's no opportunity, but because you can't decide to take a risk. Some of you have been in toxic relationships for years, not because you don't know they're unhealthy, but because you can't decide to walk away. Some of you are broke, not because you can't earn, but because you can't decide to change your habits. And until you decide, you'll stay stuck. I remember when I was still small in this game, traveling city to city with no guarantee that anybody would show up. I had to decide, am I going to keep showing up even if the room is empty? And the decision was yes. That yes built momentum. That yes built trust. That yes opened doors. If I had stayed undecided, if I had waited until it was comfortable, you wouldn't even know my name right now. I don't know what decision you've been avoiding, but I know this. Your future is waiting on it. Every excuse you've got is a chain keeping you tied to the same spot. And the key that unlocks it is your decision. Decide today that you will no longer live beneath your potential, Decide that you will no longer let fear write your story. Decide that you will take control of your life. Because the truth is simple. You either decide or you stay stuck. Everybody in this room wants clarity. You want to know your purpose. You want to see your future. You want to live at the highest level. But let me give you the truth. Clarity costs. It's not free. It doesn't show up in your life because you wish for it. It comes with a price tag. And that price tag is sacrifice. You can't see where you're going when you're carrying everything with you. Old habits, old friends, old distractions. Some of you want clarity, but you also want to keep everything that's keeping you blind. That's not how it works. To see clearly, you've got to let go of what clouds your vision. If you're not willing to pay that price, you're going to stay in the fog. When I was young, I didn't understand this. I wanted to win, but I wanted to keep the lifestyle, keep the comfort, keep the laziness. And that's why I stayed broke, confused, going in circles. The day I got clarity wasn't when I got more information. It was when I sacrificed the excuses, the comfort, the people that didn't belong in my journey. I said no more late nights wasting time. No more skipping discipline. No more surrounding myself with people who weren't hungry. That sacrifice opened up my vision. The ancient Greeks had a saying, he who would become great must first become a servant. And that means before you rise, you've got to bow to the discipline of sacrifice. You can't eat what everybody eats, can't do what everybody does, can't live how everybody lives, because clarity is expensive. You pay with discipline, you pay with focus, you pay with consistency. I remember when I started speaking, people would call me crazy. They say, why are you working so hard? Why are you turning down parties? Why are you living like a hermit? What they didn't see was the sacrifice. They didn't see me waking up at 3 a.m. They didn't see me giving up sleep, giving up comfort, giving up money to chase the vision. They didn't see the moments I said no to hanging out so I could say yes to my purpose. That's the price I had to pay to see clearly where I was going. And don't get it twisted. Sacrifice doesn't just mean giving things up. It means exchanging something good for something greater. You think you're losing, but you're gaining. You give up fast food. You gain health. You give up Netflix marathons. You gain focus. You give up sleeping in. You gain time to build your dream. Sacrifice is the trade-off that buys you clarity. Let me give you something practical. A student once asked me how to find direction in life. I told him, cut out the noise. He was confused. But the truth is you can't hear your own thoughts when you're drowning in distractions. I told him to sacrifice an hour of social media every day and sit with himself. He came back weeks later with tears in his eyes saying, for the first time, I know what I want. That wasn't magic. It was sacrifice. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and philosopher, wrote, if you want tranquility, do less. Not less in effort, but less of what doesn't matter. That's sacrifice. Stop cluttering your life with the meaningless so you can focus on the meaningful. Stop giving your best energy to things that don't add to your future. You want to be clear? Then sacrifice the unnecessary. When I was grinding, broke, and trying to figure out life, I had to sacrifice more than money. I sacrificed the opinions of others. Everybody had something to say. You should do this. You should try that. You'll never make it doing that. And it was tempting to listen, but I realized their voices were drowning out my own. So I sacrificed their approval, and when I did, I could finally hear myself. That sacrifice gave me clarity. Some of you don't have clarity, not because you can't get it, but because you refuse to sacrifice. You want wealth, but won't sacrifice your spending habits. You want freedom, but won't sacrifice the comfort of a steady paycheck. You want purpose, but won't sacrifice the fear of failing. You're asking for vision while holding on to blindness. There's a story about an old sculptor who was asked how he carved such beautiful statues. He said, I just chip away everything that isn't the figure. That's sacrifice. To see the masterpiece of your life, you've got to chip away everything that doesn't belong. Sacrifice is how you reveal the clarity that's already inside you. Let me be real with you. If you want to be wealthy, you can't spend like you're rich before you are. If you want to be healthy, you can't eat like it doesn't matter. If you want to be successful, you can't waste time like you've got eternity. Every decision you make either clouds your clarity or sharpens it. And every sacrifice you make is an investment in the future. You say you won't. Here's the hardest truth. Sometimes the sacrifices people, I'm not saying cut people off without reason, but I am saying you can't take everybody with you. Some people are tied to the version of you that doesn't want more. Some people are comfortable with your confusion. And if you refuse to sacrifice those relationships, they'll drag you back into the fog. I had to learn that clarity is lonely at first. It feels painful. It feels unfair. But once you pay the price, the reward is vision. You see the road. You see the destination. And when you see it, you can't be stopped. Clarity is not free. It's earned. And the currency is sacrifice. Everybody wants direction. Everybody wants to know where they're supposed to go, how they're supposed to get there, what their life is supposed to look like. But let me tell you something real. Direction doesn't just show up because you prayed for it, cried for it, or even because you dreamed about it. Direction is born out of discipline. Without discipline, you're wandering. With discipline, the road begins to reveal itself. Let me explain. When you wake up every day and just do whatever you feel, you're living life blindfolded. No plan, no structure, no commitment. That's why you keep bumping into walls. That's why you keep circling back to the same struggles. But the moment you get disciplined, the moment you set a routine, the moment you hold yourself accountable to habits, you start to create a rhythm, and that rhythm pulls you forward. That's direction. I had no direction when I was younger. I thought passion was enough. I thought if I just got fired up, the world would give me what I wanted. But I learned the hard way that passion without discipline is wasted energy. It burns hot for a moment and dies out. Discipline is what takes passion and turns it into progress. I got clarity about my future the day I got disciplined about my mornings, disciplined about my studying, disciplined about my grind when the alarm clock went off at 3 a.m. Discipline made me get up. When I didn't feel like speaking, discipline put me in front of the mic. When nobody was clapping for me, discipline told me to keep going. That consistency created a path that I couldn't see when I was just living wild. The philosopher Aristotle once said, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. That's discipline. If you want clarity, you've got to create habits that guide your life instead of waiting for miracles to drop into your lap. Your habits become your compass. You don't need to wonder where you're going if your daily actions are already pointing you there. I'll give you an example. A young man once asked me how I knew what path to take in life. I told him I didn't always know, but I did know how to be disciplined in the small things, showing up on time, finishing what I started, saying no to distractions. And it was those small disciplines that stacked up into clarity. People think clarity comes from a lightning bolt, but it comes from repetition. You go to the gym day after day, you eat clean meal after meal, you save dollar after dollar, and soon you look back and realize you're not lost anymore. The path has been paved by discipline. Discipline creates direction because it eliminates options. That's powerful. Too many of you are overwhelmed, not because you don't have opportunities, but because you have too many. You're trying to do 10 things at once, chasing every shiny object. Discipline says, no, this is the road. This is the choice. This is the commitment. And once the distractions are cut, the way forward becomes clear. Think about soldiers. They march in formation step by step, not because it looks good, but because discipline unites their direction. One man out of step throws off the whole unit. Your life is the same. When you lack discipline, you're out of step with your destiny. But when you get discipline, every step lines up with where you're supposed to go. I remember grinding for my degree. Man, I was exhausted. There were nights I wanted to quit, mornings I wanted to sleep in, but I stuck to the routine, classes, study hours, sacrifice. And one day I walked across that stage with a diploma in my hand. That piece of paper wasn't just knowledge. It was proof that discipline creates direction. If I had quit halfway, I would have had confusion instead of clarity. The Stoic philosopher Seneca said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." Discipline is how you prove yourself, not to others, but to yourself. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, every time you follow through, every time you do what you said you would do, you're laying bricks on the road of your life. And the more bricks you lay, the clearer the road becomes. Discipline also creates direction because it builds trust. Trust with yourself. Some of you don't trust yourself, and that's why you're stuck. You've broken too many promises to you. You said you'd wake up early, you didn't. You said you'd save money, you didn't. You said you'd grind, you didn't. And now when you say you want clarity, your own spirit doesn't believe you. Discipline fixes that. Discipline rebuilds that trust. Discipline says, I can count on me. I know where I'm going because I trust myself to take me there. Listen to me, discipline is freedom. You think it's restriction, but it's actually the opposite. When you're undisciplined, you're a slave to your impulses. You go wherever the wind blows, you react to every distraction, you drift. But when you're disciplined, you choose your steps, you create your path, you live with intention. That's real freedom. And when you start walking in discipline, don't be surprised if people don't understand you. They'll call you obsessed. They'll say you've changed. They'll call you crazy. But let me remind you, confused people will always call clarity crazy. Don't let their noise shake you. Stay disciplined. Stay on your path. Let your results speak. The great ones weren't lucky. They were disciplined. Wealth didn't come from chance. It came from consistent habits. Clarity didn't come from wishing. It came from disciplined living. And if you want the same, you've got to be willing to do the same. So stop asking, where do I go from here? And start building habits that take you somewhere. Stop waiting for clarity to fall out of the sky and start living with discipline that forces your direction to appear. Discipline doesn't just keep you moving, it keeps you moving in the right direction. One of the greatest mistakes you can ever make in life is letting somebody else define what success looks like for you. Too many people are living confused because they're chasing somebody else's definition. They're running after a picture painted by culture, by social media, by family, by friends. And the reason you don't have clarity is because deep down, that picture isn't even yours. Success that belongs to somebody else will always feel like a burden, but success that belongs to you will feel like freedom. I had to learn this the hard way. When I was younger, I looked at the athletes, the celebrities, the businessmen with all the toys, and I thought that's what I want. But when I really chased it, I realized none of that was my truth. My vision wasn't built on Lamborghinis or mansions. My vision was built on impact, on changing lives, on pulling people up from where I came from. The day I stopped chasing their dream and started chasing mine was the day clarity showed up. Because listen, you can't get clarity on a life you were never meant to live. That's why so many of you are stuck. You're grinding hard. You're working hours. You're hustling, but you're empty. You've got money in the bank, but no joy. You've got a title, but no peace. You've got followers, but no fulfillment. Why? Because you let the world define your success instead of defining it yourself. You've got to sit down and ask yourself, what does success look like for me? Don't be afraid if the answer doesn't match what everybody else wants. Maybe success for you isn't six figures. It's freedom to spend time with your kids. Maybe success for you isn't climbing corporate ladders. It's building something of your own. Maybe success isn't fame. It's peace of mind. And let me tell you, if peace is success for you, then that's the greatest wealth you can ever have. Socrates once said, the unexamined life is not worth living. That's heavy. And he's right. If you never stop to examine what success actually means to you, you'll waste your whole life living out someone else's script. You'll end up at the top of a mountain only to realize you climbed the wrong one. I remember grinding for my degree. People asked me, why are you doing all this? You don't need it to speak. And they were right, but they were wrong. Because for me, success wasn't just about speaking. It was about proving to myself and to every kid that grew up like me that education could be conquered. That diploma wasn't a piece of paper. It was a statement. That was my definition of success. And that's why I had the fire to finish. And listen, your definition of success is going to cost you, because once you define it, you've got to protect it. People will pressure you to conform, to chase what they chase, to run the rat race, but you've got to stand firm. You've got to say, no, this is what matters to me. This is the life I'm building. Don't let somebody with shallow values convince you to abandon your depth. Clarity comes when you stop competing with other people's highlight reels. You don't need their applause to validate your purpose. You don't need their approval to pursue your calling. The moment you define success for yourself, comparison loses its power over you, because now you're not racing them. You're running your own race. I think of Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, who said, very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. That's it right there. Success is not a number, it's a mindset. It's not about how much you have, it's about how much alignment you live in. When what you value matches how you live, that's real success. But let's be real, defining success for yourself takes courage. It means admitting what you actually want. It means silencing the noise. It means saying no to paths that look glamorous but don't fit your soul. And yes, it might disappoint people, but better to disappoint them than to betray yourself. Some of you are broke right now, not because you're lazy, but because you're spending your energy chasing success that doesn't belong to you. You're in the wrong career, the wrong lane, the wrong grind. The money might come, but the misery will stay. But when you define success for yourself, every step you take has meaning. Even when it's hard, even when it's painful, it feels right because it's your path. I'll never forget the day I made peace with the fact that my calling was to speak, not rap, not play sports, not chase some fantasy, but to speak. And when I accepted that, when I stopped running from it, everything changed. That's when opportunities started lining up. That's when clarity exploded in my life. That's when I knew exactly where I was supposed to go because I stopped trying to fit into their box and embrace my own lane. Success isn't about being the richest, the loudest, or the most popular. Success is about being the most authentic version of you. It's about building wealth, yes, but wealth that aligns with your values. It's about leaving a legacy, not just collecting things. And if you can get clear on that, if you can define success for yourself, then no storm, no critic, no setback can take it away from you. Because the truth is, the world will always try to sell you a definition of success. But real clarity, real peace, real fulfillment, it only comes when you stop buying their definition and start writing your own. And the day you define success for yourself, you'll stop being confused, stop being lost, and finally start living the life you were created to live. Everybody in this room is running from pain, but I need you to understand something today. Pain is not your enemy. Pain is your compass. It's pointing you to the exact place where your growth lives. The reason so many people never get clarity about what they want is because the moment life hurts, the moment it gets uncomfortable, they run. But when you run from pain, you run from the very process designed to shape you into the person capable of carrying your vision. I didn't get here because life was easy. I didn't get here because doors just opened. I got here because I took the pain and let it point me to purpose. When I was homeless, when I was sleeping in abandoned buildings, when my stomach was growling and my spirit was crushed, that pain was speaking to me. It was telling me this is not where you belong. You've got to fight for something better. If I had numbed myself to that pain, if I had drowned it out, I'd still be stuck in that same place, but I let it guide me. See, pain is feedback. When your body hurts in the gym, it's not because you're dying, it's because you're getting stronger. When life puts weight on your shoulders, it's not always to crush you. Sometimes it's to build you. But too many of us confuse pain with punishment. We think struggle means we're off course, but sometimes struggle is proof that you're on the right course. There's a line from the philosopher Seneca that always hits me. Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. That's it right there. Pain is not random. It's strengthening you. It's teaching you. It's aligning you with where you're supposed to go. But you got to be willing to stop asking, why me? And start asking, what is this teaching me? Because the lesson inside the pain is what brings clarity. I can't tell you how many times I thought my pain was the end. Dropping out of high school, that felt like the end. My family struggling, that felt like the end. Watching other people win while I felt stuck, that felt like the end. But every single time that pain redirected me. It forced me to search deeper. It forced me to decide what I really wanted. If I didn't hurt, I would have settled. Pain kept me from settling. Some of you in here want clarity, but you want it without pain. You want the success without the scars. You want the crown without the cross. It doesn't work like that. The pain is what makes you value the win. The pain is what strips away the fake and reveals what you actually want. When your back is against the wall and the comfort is gone, that's when you finally decide either I quit or I fight for what's mine. That's where clarity lives. Think about childbirth. There's no life without pain. A mother endures hours of agony because she knows what's coming on the other side. That pain is not meaningless. It's proof that something beautiful is being born. And it's the same in your life. Every struggle, every tear, every sleepless night, it's labor pains. Something in you is trying to be born. Don't numb it. Don't run from it. Lean into it. Because on the other side of that pain is clarity and purpose. And let me be real with you. Pain has a way of stripping distractions. When you're hurting, you don't have time for games. You don't have time for fake friends. You don't have time to waste. Pain puts you in focus. When I was at my lowest, I didn't have the luxury to pretend. It was either find clarity and climb or stay broken. Pain narrowed my vision, sharpened my hunger, and forced me to define exactly what I wanted out of life. But here's the thing, you've got to interpret your pain correctly. Too many people let pain turn them bitter. They get hit, and instead of growing, they close off. Instead of learning, they complain. Instead of moving forward, they get stuck in resentment. Don't let your pain make you hard. Let it make you hungry. Don't let it make you bitter. Let it make you bitter. I think of the words of the ancient poet Rumi. The wound is the place where the light enters you. That means your greatest pain is also your greatest opportunity. The wound you want to hide might be the very place your clarity shines through. That's where you'll discover what you're really made of and what you were really created for. And yes, I know pain isn't fun. I know it hurts. I know some of you have cried more nights than you can count. I know some of you carry scars nobody else sees. But listen to me, don't waste that pain. Don't let it be for nothing. Let it fuel you. Let it guide you. Let it remind you that you're still alive and you've still got work to do. Pain is not always a sign to stop. Sometimes it's a sign you're finally in the right place, because greatness and comfort have never lived on the same street. You don't get clarity sitting on the couch. You get clarity when life shakes you, when life squeezes you, when life forces you to choose who you're going to be. So stop running from your pain. Stop numbing it with distractions. Stop pretending it isn't there. Lean into it. Learn from it. Let it guide you. Because if you can embrace your pain, if you can let it point you instead of paralyze you, you will find clarity like you've never known before. And the truth is, the very thing you thought would break you is the thing that SIP's going to build. Everybody wants clarity. Everybody wants direction, but very few people want discipline. And let me tell you right now, without discipline, you will never get clarity. You'll be stuck in confusion, distracted by everything around you, tossed back and forth by emotions, because clarity isn't something you stumble upon. Clarity is earned through the consistent practice of discipline. Listen to me. I didn't wake up one day with a clear vision of who I wanted to be. I didn't magically know how to escape the streets, how to go from homeless to helping people all over the world. No, it came through discipline. It came through those mornings when I didn't want to get up, but I got up anyway. It came through those days when I wanted to quit school, but I sat in class anyway. It came through nights when I wanted to sleep, but I studied, I read, I prepared anyway. Discipline creates the space for clarity to show up. Some of you can't hear your purpose because your life is too noisy. You've got 1,000 distractions, 1,000 voices pulling at you, and no order in your life. And you keep asking, why can't I figure out what I want? It's because you've never disciplined your mind, your time, or your habits long enough for the truth to reveal itself. Discipline silences the noise. Discipline cuts through the chaos. Discipline says, this is where my focus goes. This is where my energy goes, and nothing else gets my attention. I'll never forget the words of Aristotle. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. You don't get clarity by doing something once. You don't get clarity by being motivated for a week. You get clarity when discipline becomes who you are, when showing up, when working hard, when staying focused is no longer a choice, but your lifestyle. Let me give you an example. When I started running every morning, it wasn't because I loved running. I hated it, but I knew my mind was foggy. I knew I was distracted. I knew I wasn't performing at my best. Running gave me order. Waking up at the same time, moving my body, breathing fresh air, that discipline cleared the clutter in my head. And soon I realized it wasn't about the running. It was about creating habits that built clarity. See, discipline is like polishing glass. At first, the surface is cloudy, unclear. But every day you apply discipline, every day you wipe away distractions, you polish the glass until suddenly you can see straight through it. That's what clarity feels like. You start to see who you really are, what you really want, and where you really need to go. But here's the challenge. Most people quit before they polish long enough. They try discipline for a week. They see no results and they stop. They wake up early 3 days in a row, then sleep in on the fourth. They save money for a month, then blow it all on a whim. And then they wonder why they're still confused, still lost, still unclear. Clarity doesn't come overnight. It comes through the grind, through the monotony, through the boring repetition that discipline demands. I used to think freedom was doing whatever I wanted whenever I wanted. But I learned real freedom comes through discipline, because when you're disciplined, you're no longer a slave to your moods, to your cravings, to your distractions. You're in control. And when you're in control, that's when the fog clears. That's when your mind settles. That's when you can finally hear your inner voice telling you what you were meant to do. Even the greats understood this. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and philosopher, said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That's discipline, taking control of your mind instead of letting the world dictate who you are. And when you control your mind, you unlock clarity. Some of you are praying for clarity, but God can't give you what you're asking for because you're not ready for it. You're too inconsistent. You say you want purpose, but your habits are all over the place. One day you're on fire, the next day you're cold. One day you're committed, the next day you're distracted. You can't hold clarity if you can't hold discipline, because clarity is fragile. It requires a stable foundation to survive. I'm telling you right now, if you want clarity about what you want in life, start small. Wake up at the same time every day. Commit to reading 15 minutes every day. Save a portion of every paycheck. Exercise consistently. Pray or meditate every morning. Those small acts of discipline will snowball into a lifestyle that reveals your true vision. Don't wait for a lightning bolt from the sky. Discipline is the lightning. Discipline is the spark that ignites the fire of clarity. And let me tell you what discipline does. It builds trust with yourself. Some of you don't believe in yourself because you've broken too many promises to yourself. You say you'll do something, then you don't. You say you'll change, then you quit. That inconsistency clouds your vision. But every time you keep your word, every time you follow through, every time you stay disciplined, you start believing again. And when you believe in yourself, clarity comes rushing in. So stop waiting for clarity to find you. Stop waiting for someone to hand you purpose. Discipline yourself and watch how the fog lifts. Watch how your priorities align. Watch how the things you thought mattered fall away and the things you were created for rise to the surface. Because clarity is not the reward for wishing. Clarity is the reward for discipline. And if you want it bad enough, you've got to be willing to do the hard, repetitive, unglamorous work every single day until your vision is undeniable. The truth is simple. Discipline creates clarity, and clarity creates freedom. You want clarity in your life, but you keep surrounding yourself with confusion. You want vision, but you keep living in environments that blind you. Don't you understand? Your environment shapes your vision, where you place yourself, who you listen to, who you spend time with. That determines what you see, what you believe is possible, and ultimately what you pursue. I remember when I was younger, I didn't have much. I was sleeping in abandoned buildings, running with people who didn't see a future for themselves. And you know what? I couldn't see mine either. I wasn't dumb, I wasn't lazy, but my environment was toxic. It was filled with hopelessness, negativity, and distractions. And when you breathe that in every single day, it clouds your vision. It's like trying to see through dirty glass. You think that's the way the world looks, when really it's just the filth you've allowed around you. You can't expect to have a millionaire's mindset while spending every day with people who complain about being broke. You can't expect to build a championship spirit when you're hanging around people who settle for mediocrity. Your environment is shaping your reality, whether you admit it or not. Even the greats understood this. Confucius once said, "If you are the smartest person in the room, then you are in the wrong room." Why? Because your environment should stretch you, challenge you, pull you higher. If your vision is small, it might not be because you lack potential. It might be because you're living in a place where no one dares to dream. When I finally changed my environment, Everything shifted. I started surrounding myself with people who believed in education, people who believed in purpose, people who pushed me to stop making excuses. And suddenly I started to see what was possible. I started to believe I could go back to school, believe I could change my life, believe I could reach people around the world. That wasn't an accident. It was the power of environment. Some of you are asking for clarity, but you keep living in environments that fog your mind. You can't grow a seed in poison soil. It doesn't matter how good the seed is. If the environment is toxic, it won't flourish. And the same is true for your vision. You might have greatness inside of you, but if you stay in an environment of negativity, doubt, and distractions, that greatness will suffocate before it ever has a chance to breathe. You've got to audit your circle. You've got to audit your space. If you're trying to be disciplined, but your environment is filled with temptation, you're setting yourself up for failure. If you're trying to be focused, but your environment is filled with noise, you'll never hear your calling. If you're trying to build wealth, but your environment is filled with people spending recklessly, your vision will be distorted. When I was climbing out of the pit, I had to cut ties with certain people, not because I hated them, but because I loved myself enough to protect my future. And it wasn't easy. It hurt. But clarity requires sacrifice. And sometimes the sacrifice is removing yourself from an environment that doesn't serve your vision. You can't put a lion in a cage and expect it to roar. A lion needs the savannah, needs the hunt, needs the freedom to be who it is. And you too need an environment that lets your vision breathe. Put yourself where people are hungry. Put yourself where people are driven. Put yourself where mediocrity is not accepted. Because when you live in that space, your own vision expands. Let me make this plain. If you want to get in shape, don't just rely on willpower. Go to the gym. Surround yourself with people lifting weights, running, sweating, pushing. That environment will push you to become who you said you wanted to be. If you want to build wealth, stop hanging around people who live paycheck to paycheck with no plan. Start spending time with investors, entrepreneurs, builders. Their environment will shape your financial vision. The Roman philosopher Seneca said, associate with people who are likely to improve you. That's wisdom, because clarity doesn't come in isolation. Clarity is sharpened by the company you keep. The people in your environment act like mirrors. They reflect back what's possible, and if their reflection is small, your vision will shrink with it. Some of you need to change the environment inside your own home. Maybe it's filled with clutter, filled with distractions, filled with chaos. How can you expect a clear mind when you live in disorder? Clean your space, organize your room, make your environment align with the vision you're chasing. When your outer world is in order, it's easier for your inner world to follow. But hear me on this. It's not just about removing the wrong environment, it's about building the right one. You can't just run away from negativity. You have to intentionally create a space that feeds your vision. Put up reminders of your goals. Listen to voices that push you higher. Fill your environment with energy, with positivity, with discipline. I'm telling you right now, your environment can either be the wind that pushes you forward or the weight that holds you down. Choose wisely, because clarity doesn't just live in your mind. It breathes in the space around you. If you want a clear vision, you must live in a clear environment. You can sit in your room all day, write down your goals, dream about your future, and talk about what you want. But until you move, nothing changes. Clarity without action is just a fantasy. It's like having a map but refusing to take the first step. You'll never reach the destination. I don't care how many vision boards you've got, how many books you've read, how many plans you've written. At the end of the day, clarity demands action. I remember when I had nothing. I was homeless, no degrees, no direction, but I had a moment of clarity. I knew deep in my heart that I didn't want to live like that anymore. That realization alone didn't change my situation. What changed it was when I acted. I got up early. I went back to school. I started grinding day and night. I started speaking even when nobody was listening. My clarity turned into a weapon the moment I put it into motion. Some of you know exactly what you want. You've prayed about it. You've dreamed about it. You've written it down 100 times, but you're stuck. You're waiting for the perfect timing, waiting until you feel ready, waiting until you have every single detail figured out. And that waiting has become your prison. You don't need more time. You need more courage to act. The ancient philosopher Heraclitus said, big results require big ambitions. But hear me, ambition alone isn't enough. You can have the biggest dream in the world, but if you never act on it, it dies inside you. Dreams are fragile. They need movement to survive. Think about it. You don't get fit by thinking about the gym. You don't build wealth by daydreaming about money. You don't strengthen your relationships by just wishing for love. Everything you want demands that you move, that you take steps, that you act. Clarity gives you the target, but action is the arrow that hits it. When I started speaking, I didn't have the perfect strategy. I didn't have the best equipment. I didn't have a team, a stage, or a plan, but I had clarity. I knew I wanted to use my voice to change lives, so I acted. I recorded in classrooms, in church basements, in whatever space I could find. And because I acted, doors started opening. You don't wait for doors to open before you act, and that action kicks the doors open. Some of you are so obsessed with perfection that you paralyze yourself. You think, when I have the money, then I'll start. When I have the connections, then I'll move. When everything lines up, then I'll chase my vision. Let me tell you something. It will never all line up. You will never feel 100% ready, but you don't need to be ready. You need to be willing. Think about the farmer. He doesn't wait for perfect weather before planting seeds. He plants in faith, knowing that the act of planting is what brings the harvest. That's what clarity is supposed to do. Once you know what you want, you plant, you move, you act. The action may not look big at first, but every step compounds. Every move brings you closer. Every act builds momentum. Even Aristotle said, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. That means the power isn't just in acting once, it's in acting again and again until action becomes your lifestyle. Clarity is not a one-time vision, it's a daily discipline, and that discipline is only proven through consistent action. Let me break it down. Clarity without action creates frustration. You'll know exactly what you want, but feel trapped because you haven't moved. Action without clarity creates chaos. You're moving, but in the wrong direction. But clarity plus action, that creates transformation. That's how you go from wishing to winning, from dreaming to doing, from seeing to seizing. Some of you keep asking God, why haven't you blessed me yet? Why haven't you given me what I've been praying for? And the truth is, He already has. He gave you clarity, but you haven't done anything with it. Why would He bless you with more when you haven't acted on what you already know? I had clarity long before I had success. But the reason I got here wasn't because I had clarity. It was because I moved on it. I acted when it was inconvenient. I acted when I was tired. I acted when I was broke. And because I acted, that clarity turned into reality. You can't keep sitting on the sidelines of your own life. You can't keep being a spectator, clapping for other people who acted while you stayed stuck in thought. Stop admiring, stop analyzing, stop overthinking. It's time to move. It's time to act. Because clarity isn't the end of the journey. It's the beginning. It's the spark that lights the fire, but action is what keeps the flame alive. You know what you want? The question is, what are you willing to do today to go get it? Clarity demands action. Listen to me. This is the moment. You've walked with me through every truth, every challenge, every lesson. And now it comes down to this. Clarity means nothing if you leave this room and go back to the same habits, the same excuses, the same routines that kept you stuck. You already know what you want. Deep inside, your heart has been screaming it. Your spirit has been pointing to it. Now the question is, what are you going to do about it? Stop waiting for tomorrow. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Stop waiting for someone else to validate your dream. The clock is ticking, your life is moving, and every second you hesitate is a second you'll never get back. Greatness is not reserved for the chosen few. It's reserved for those who act, those who sacrifice, those who refuse to settle for less than what they were created for. So I challenge you, when you walk out of here, don't just talk about it, be about it, write it down, map it out, then step on it right now. Take the first step today, because clarity without action is just a wish, but clarity with action, that's destiny fulfilled. Now go claim what sits yours.